Welcome to Being Sharon Gibson Show, BSG.
Hello, BSG Fighters. Happy New Year and welcome back to a new season on the show. It's season 7, the breakthrough season. As we all know, 7 is a perfect number. So indeed, this is going to be the season where the world knows about the BSG show. Our first guest is Budy Whitfield, a clinical director and therapist from the United States of America. As intended, I am going to transform your mind into a strong and positive mind. The show is all about navigating through life, improving your mental health, and reaching your higher self. Before I dive into today's topic, I'd like all of you to know that my TikTok and YouTube community are different from my podcast community, so check out my videos on these platforms. Welcome, Beauty.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being the first guest on our breakthrough season. How are
Yeah,
you doing today?
I am doing well. Really excited to be here and share my story with all of your listeners.
Thank you. Can you kindly tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the field for over 20 years. I have a private practice. I see women, professional women who struggle with anxiety, depression, life issues, and past trauma to help them heal and make their fullest potential so that they can show up better in their personal relationships, business relationships, and in all areas of their life. I also oversee some programs of behavioral health in my 9 to 5. And then I'm also a leadership coach. So leading women in leadership positions, really trying to show up as their authentic self, but also helping them excel with their team.
Amazing. Topic is titled Dealing with Mental Stress. And as usual, I will be sharing top quotes and rules for success inspired by a highly successful and influential person. Today's person is Jackie Chan, famously known as an actor. Number 1, do not let circumstances control you. And number 2, prepare for the worst. So now let's dive into our topic of discussion, dealing with mental stress. Stress is one of the leading causes of mental problems. As a therapist, how do you deal with stress?
So, twofold. How do I deal with stress for myself? You got to kind of practice what you preach. Although there are many therapists out there who are easy at preaching instead of practicing, and it can happen, and that's rooted in other past behaviors, but it's important to continue to practice what you preach. In order to be able to help others, you have to work on helping and healing yourself. Although I've been a therapist for such a long time, I too have a therapist because I'm a human being at the end of the day. When I log off these sessions, it's important for me to take care of myself.
That's so true. For me, I just decided not to stress anymore. If I can't control the situation or I can't solve the problem, I just sleep or I don't
Ah.
even think too. I don't think too much about it. It's not even a joke. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? That's one question I always ask myself all the time.
That's part of cognitive behavioral therapy. What is the worst that can happen? And I think people have to see those things for the scenario. What you're expressing is super important because there are people who are on the opposite end who can't sleep whenever there's problems, who struggle with even being still within themselves or even around them because their brain is just going 500 miles a minute. So, yeah, what is the worst that can happen is part of cognitive behavioral therapy. So, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. But you know, one thing I noticed about therapy, because I can't even say if I was or I am still in therapy because I'm fighting with my therapist right now.
It's okay. It's healthy to fight. There, you have to find out what is the fight about.
Yeah, the fight is the fact that now I'm dealing with spiritual problems and she's only speaking about the physical. And I'm like, the spiritual world exists, right? And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why, from what I got from my therapist, therapists are kind of restricted from like talking about things when it's spiritual stuff, right? You have to tackle it in like the physical. That's what I got from her. And I'm like, but I'm dealing with spiritual problems right now. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can't help me, but don't make me feel like I am being delusional or I am overthinking it. You get it? Don't make me feel some type of way about talking about it. Maybe you could just tell me, Sean, I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying,
so
but
I think everyone has a different form of training. So what is your therapist? Is it a psychologist? What is your therapist training?
I think she's a psychologist.
Yeah, everyone has a very prescribed way of training. And I think if you look at psychology, and very much no disrespect to psychology, but in the world of psychology, the percentage of psychologists that are white is very, very high as opposed to psychologists who are black and brown. And part of like changing the model with a lot of the evidence-based treatments that have been come up from psychology is understanding cultural competence and understanding religion, spirituality, etc. And I think every training of a background for clinicians, one of the first things that for me as in social work is that you have to see the holistic of the person, and culture, religion, spirituality, even subcultures within your culture is super important to talk about, because that can formulate how you think, that can formulate how you're showing up in this world, or even how you process some things. So I think what makes it unique in therapy, when people understand that and are able to break it in and not keep to such a prescribed model, is that you do tend to break down that feeling that someone feels delusional, or if they're hallucinating, or if they're experiencing certain things, because we have to look at that cultural piece and that spirituality piece, which is important for a lot of folks.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong, with your therapist, and your therapist might mean, very well. And she also might be from a certain kind of training and whatever modality it is that she's
Yeah, that's
focusing
true.
on in treatment. So if you went to treatment with her and you really wanted to work on a certain modality, and that's what she's working on, and perhaps that level, there is no level of comfortability for her to tap into that. Everyone can bring their unique little side to them in therapy. But again, other people just focus more on like a prescriptive way of approach in treating clients.
That's true. But why do you think people put pressure on themselves?
People put pressure on themselves. This stems from what you were told in childhood. It's how you perceived or received information in childhood, how your parents felt pressure, accepted pressure, and what they did with pressure, and how that formulated your thought process now into adulthood. So, for example, people with anxiety put a lot of pressure on themselves, but that's because their fixed mindset. Some people are really focused on like they have to have a schedule, they have to have a routine, like things have to feel familiar in order to release the anxiety and release the feelings that come with it. And so they add more pressure to themselves than anything. So let's just say, for example, a person with anxiety has 10 things to do that day, and their boss comes in and adds two more things. They are going to add more pressure, and they're going to think about their entire schedule all day and how to incorporate those two additional tasks without them looking at it from a lens, a faraway lens, and saying, okay, so if I have these 10 things today, what is more important to handle? How can I rearrange my schedule so that I can get this in? And then maybe leave some things for tomorrow. But because the mindset is so set on, I woke up this morning, I know my routine, and I have those 10 things to do, that's what I have to do. So the added pressure now, the anxiety, the irritability, all those emotions that come up are truly real.
Yeah, I love what you said at the beginning. And it all boils down to programming. Like every single
Mhm.
person, every human being has been programmed, whether they like it or not, based
Yeah,
on how they grew up.
of course,
And
absolutely.
the beauty of life is the fact that you can be you can be unprogrammed and
Hmm.
reprogrammed.
Hmm.
That's one thing I love about being human. I have done that myself. I have reprogrammed myself based on how I grew up, and I've reprogrammed myself to who I am today. I always say that life is to be lived. We are not here to just be doing things. We're not machines that just come here to just be doing things and accomplishing things. And yeah, we want to make the world a better place. Like we have to live. It's an experience. You have to live that experience. Like know who you are, the different sides of you.
Hmm.
So it's sad when people like try to put so much pressure on themselves to be something, because you end up getting to where you want to be, and then you're like, okay, is that it? Because you didn't enjoy the journey. I was talking to one of my friends today, and I was telling her that I got a discount on a food app that I downloaded, a 12 euros discount. And I just loved the feeling, like how I felt, how happy I felt, because I knew what that took, how much that would save me
Hmm.
because of how I'm growing financially. So at this point financially, I'm at the stage that when I get such a discount, it makes me excited. It makes me really happy because I don't have, how should I put it? I'm not yet rich to the
Hmm.
point where 12 euros wouldn't mean anything to me.
Right.
And I love the fact that I'm experiencing this stage, and 12 euros means something to me. And I was just so happy. Like you should have seen me just relating that, oh, I just have to pay 8 euros for my food. And it
Oh,
just feels nice because it's the journey. But people focus so much on the destination, like where they want
yes.
to be, that they don't enjoy the journey. And that's why they put so much pressure on themselves. You see me do so many things on social media, whether it's on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever. But girl, I enjoy my life.
And that's important in taking a step back to going back to what you said about the deprogramming and programming. Some people are able to catch it and do it, and others aren't. It takes a certain
Yeah,
amount of emotional intelligence to realize that some of those behaviors didn't serve you or didn't serve former family members. And so you can't really bring that in all your spaces in life.
I agree with you. Do you think that a person's trauma has anything to do with their desire to be something, even to the detriment of their physical and mental health?
I think I want to separate both things, right? Because trauma is one big major component. Trauma is one big thing. And trauma comes with a lot. The way people process trauma, whether something detrimental happened in your childhood and you were believed by family or something happened to you by family, that can shape how you show up and how you think of things. Or if women who have had negative experiences with men might show up into the world having all negative feelings about men. Or if in a family culture, women are supposed to be submissive to men, women are supposed to, or children, let's just say, be quiet and not be heard and not be seen as a child, and then they experience something detrimental to their lives, that quiets them. That doesn't allow them to feel seen, valid, or heard. So those are like that. When it comes to trauma is a whole different layer. I think when it comes to your family construct and what people experience in the family, we think about generational curses, we think about generational lines, we think about familiar things that keep following family members, we think about the mental illness that sometimes follows. So a grandma might have been depressed, another person might have been depressed, anxious, or alcoholism or substance abuse, etc. We have to look at how that interweaves into a woman's wound and how it transfers from one parent to another child to another child to another child, just with those behaviors. Think about how some mothers or fathers react to stress. When you see that at home, sometimes you can make a conscious decision to not react that way, or because it's so innate, you behave the same way as your parents. So a lot of what we've been left with in growing up hinders and kind of shapes us into adulthood. I think the beauty about it, of what I've seen, is when parents actually can turn around and ask their kids for forgiveness or admit their wrongdoings, because sometimes adult children, hold on to so much hurt and pain of whatever's happened to them in their childhood. Because the reality is, some cultures, parents will tell you right away, well, I did the best that I can and it is what it is. And that might be true. They might really have done the best that they can, but an apology goes a long way. And the healing from that is just beautiful.
I love what she said. I really love how you reframed my question and answered it. And you know what's sad? Yeah, the fact that most parents, the lack of accountability is crazy. It
Well,
can,
because think about it, right? If
yeah,
your parents put you through school, paid for your school, gave you a roof over your head, gave you more than what they had, they feel accomplished. You
yeah,
might be the child that showed up to this world needing hugs. You might be the child that showed up to this world needing words of affirmation,
yeah,
needing someone to cheer you on, to show
that's
up
me.
to any of your shows or anything. You might need that as a child. Your parents really did do the best that they can because they felt they did for you more than they received in childhood. And that's where there's a disconnect that people don't understand. Some people get really still angry and resentment towards their parents, but if you take a big look and a step back, your parents did the best that they can. And when I've met with adult women in therapy, that has been so transformative and healing for them to see, to release the anger, to release the disappointment, to release some of all of those feelings. Because the truth, your parents did not know any better.
The painful part is they didn't know any better. But now I'm an adult and I'm
Right.
telling
And
you
but they
what,
should
do you
do
get what?
better. Oh yeah,
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 and no,
yeah.
I love the fact that I was born with a strong mental. No, I wasn't born with a strong mindset. I worked towards getting to this mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not the kind of person to hold on to a trauma. Like of late, guys have been very weird towards me. I can't even begin to say what it is. But instead of curling in and being sad, I'm taking strength from what they're doing to me to build my life and still be happy and still be that girl and even go into the world and do more things. That's how I turn negative into positive. I always do that.
Mm-hmm.
So like when it comes to my childhood or what my mom did or what my family did to me, it doesn't break me. But what is annoying is the fact that now I'm an adult. Take
Mm-hmm.
accountability for what you do now.
Yeah.
I don't care
Yeah.
about what you did in the past. Because, yeah, you did the best that you can with the understanding of life that you had. And that's okay. I don't know if I would have done better as a mother or as a father. But now that I'm alive and I'm grown and I'm an adult and you're also an adult, let's do better. Don't come
Mm-hmm.
and cause me adult traumas.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And the sad reality is that some parents will get it and some won't. And I think the
yes.
interpretation for you is, are you okay with that? That
Oh,
this is who they are. This is who they are. I can't change them. So now
yeah.
here are the boundaries I'm going to implement in order to help myself.
It was so hard to get there. It was so hard to let go of that expectation because I'm like, you carried me for 9 months. Why wouldn't you just give me this? Why wouldn't you just sacrifice this? Not even sacrifice. Why won't you just love me in this way that I tell you that I love being loved? How many times do I have to say this? I
And
had
she
that
probably doesn't know how to. And that's
I,
the sad reality.
you don't know how to. And I'm telling you how I want to be loved.
Yeah.
If you really
Yeah.
want to love me, you will love me the way I'm telling you I love to be loved. You don't
Yeah.
know how to, that's fine. But I go like, okay, mommy, I love it when you call me. If
Hmm.
you are busy, just let me know. Like you get it. You don't know how to love.
Yeah.
Perfectly
Yeah.
fine. See, I wouldn't even come out and just say it if I've not even tried to help the person to get there. And
Right.
and the worst thing is the fact that the person's an adult and has an adult's brain. Your frontal lobe has been fully developed to
Right.
comprehend what I'm trying to say and what I'm asking of you. So now it took me some time, after saying it over and over again, it took me some time to let go of that expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've gotten there and I really do not care. I don't have any hatred for anybody because that's a waste of time and energy. I don't even have time to engage in that emotion. I'm very neutral in the way I feel, but I just move on with my life, accepting them for who they are
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
even being bothered because it's a life experience. And that's one thing most of us do not understand. Just like your work experience,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to experience life for what it is and kind of like write a book with my life. If you're draining my life and I'm not able to experience life the way I want to experience life or I was destined to experience life, I do not have to engage with you. Be it we come from the same family or we grew up in the same household. Because in the end, I will stand with myself
Yeah.
in my grave. I wouldn't be standing, I'll be lying down, by the way.
But what you're saying is that you've turned that energy inward. That
Yes, I
energy that
have.
you were expelling in being upset or being bothered, or being frustrated, is that you've turned it inward, and you're
Yeah.
taking that inward energy into doing amazing things and talking to other folks about healing their mindset, healing their mental health, etc. So that is your superwoman story on how you've turned that pain into purpose.
Yes, tout à fait. That's exactement.
Are you ready for the comfort break question? Comfort break question.
The comfort break question for today is: what would you do for the world if you were a president of a first world country with a great economy?
What would I do for the world? Oh. Being that things are so vast in both of our countries, right? For one is universal health care. There is no healthcare disparity. Everyone needs the help. Number two is no homelessness, making sure everyone has a warm home to be in. And
Yeah.
number three is making sure that the world understands how important it is to take care of yourself. So much study, so much research goes back to stress, exercise, eating, all these, if we go back to our caveman roots, all these things that were important, we have to go back to prioritizing these things, but also being kinder to each other. Where jobs understand flexibility of mental health days, and some jobs do, some jobs don't, but understanding mental health days and really being more supportive of one another in that way. I think just breaking down those silos of who can have better insurance than whoever, who gets this better coverage. You get a better therapist if you have this insurance. You got the like
I feel
it's
you.
just making it equitable for everyone, I think, is important.
When do you take a chill pill in this fast-paced world?
Oh, you know what? Unfortunately, I've had to learn that the slow life is something that I crave. And here's what I'll say in taking a chill pill, because I work a full time, I have my private practice, I have clients, I have my obligation to my parents, my father who's sick. And so I'm always on the go. I have learned to take a step back. And when I feel myself on edge, all the way to almost a breaking point, that I have to kind of take a step back. So what I've had to learn through the years is, because I'll go through the breaking point and then kind of like crumble down. I've had to learn, when I feel my heart rate going a certain manner, when I feel my thoughts, when I feel my feelings shifting and changing, that it is my internal alarm system telling me to slow down. For me, what that looks like is my mornings are my precious mornings. So I wake up in the morning, I make my coffee, and I sit and I journal and I pray, and that is my time for me to do that. And then I work out and get my day on. Mornings that I don't get to do that, my day feels rushed. That for me is my quiet time, because my day doesn't end till 9 o'clock at night. So I'm back to back. The other thing is learning to breathe. My therapist and I joke around about it. I'm like, I feel like I'm holding my breath all the time. When you feel so much pressure, stress to kind of move around, pay attention to your body, how it tenses. Your breathing
Yeah,
also tenses. So
you're
when
right.
you sit, it's just taking the opportunity to just exhale. And that could be hard, because I'm not the type to do breath work, exercises, none of that. But I do believe in even in my sessions with my clients, when I'm in session with them, I'm doing the breathing techniques with them as well. There is like a power that comes up when you're able to take a breath and breathe. Like, God gave us lungs for a reason, and it's for us to exercise it in a way. But when we're stressed, we hold on to our breath, believe it or not. So
Yeah,
breathing
yeah.
has been something that I've learned. I also love to walk. I feel like walking has been my thing to like kind of like pace for. It's hard now because it's cold, but once it gets warm outside, I like to just go around and just kind of walk a little bit, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, me too. You talking about the breathing technique. I tried doing it. I tried breathing.
It's
Just,
hard. It's hard.
you know,
Listen, I'm the type that when my therapist tells me breathe, I'm like, okay, we're gonna breathe. When I do it with my clients, by the time I get to do it with them is when we're doing trauma work. I'm trained in EMDR, and so that's a different kind of trauma work. So we'll do the breathing there to kind of like calm the body down. But even myself, I have to. I feel the tension, and I'm like, okay, let me breathe. And you do see like a little bit of the deflation happen. But it's hard. Listen, I'm telling you myself that it is hard. It is hard.
I did it recently, and even at that, I still went to cause commotion. I did the breathing. You know what? I posted something. I was like, sometimes you just have to act. You have to act crazy in this crazy world, not to the extreme. And finally, how does one improve their mental health in spite of life demands?
So number one is accepting that life is going to have demands.
Yes.
Think number two is evaluating what excess you have in your life that's taking your mental space. That's too much. And some of that might have to be setting boundaries with people. Sometimes it might be maybe you say yes too often, and at times you need to say no in order for you to rest. Don't worry about FOMO or fear of missing out or fear of that, people are not going to connect with you. Learning to listen to your body and where it's at, because your body is an alarm system. It'll tell you what it's feeling, and slowing it down is important. But that acceptance piece is helpful, because then it makes you look at things not as if, again, what's happening to me. All these horrible things are happening to me, but it's just saying, okay, this is part of life. These things are occurring. How can I move forward? How can I take this experience and this situation and make it work for me?
I do agree with you. And moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Moderation is what makes me enjoy life. So I don't do too much of everything. I can do something, I just take a break, take breaks in between. It's very very important.
Yes.
And what is for you would find you. That's so true. But sometimes you also have to go out and look for what you want.
Yeah.
Life is about balance. Don't do
It
too
is.
much of everything. It's about balance, accepting the truth too as well, like the truth of every situation. It can be hard to do, but
Hmm.
whenever I'm confronted with a situation, I try to accept it for what it is and not what I wish it could be. It really helps to improve my mental health. In the moment, I could feel some sort of pain in my heart, especially when it has to do with somebody you really love and you
Yeah.
see the relationship for what it is. It can be very painful in the moment, but don't drift to denial. Accept it for what the situation is. Feel the emotions, cry if you have to, but don't let the person's attitude make you define who you are.
Oh, of
What
course.
people do is on them. And if you're walking around this world and you can't find maybe people in your circle, people who truly love you, people who you want to love you the way you want to be loved, trust me, I know most people might not believe it, and the world is moving to a point where people eliminate the spiritual world and the divine world, but the divine world really loves the human world. And if you can't find that in the physical world, just connect to the spiritual world, connect to the divine world. So my birthday last year, people that I thought that loved me and really cared about me didn't show me any care at all on my birthday. It felt like they intentionally wanted to hurt me, and they know that I'm a birthday person. Like, it was just one person, and that person that I spoke to was somebody I met on the plane. And trust me, the divine world really showed up. I live on the top floor and I have a very nice view. I see birds all the time, but a bird has never come to my window. On my birthday, a bird came to my window. It's like the divine world really showed up for me. So yeah, still show love to people, but the divine world exists and it's more about how you feel than what you see. So I really encourage people to focus on how you feel more than what you see. The reason why we ignore the spiritual world is because we are always focusing on what we see, and sometimes what you see is very deceptive. Is how you feel. Always pay attention to how you feel. So yeah, all these things really help to improve my mental health.
That's beautiful.
So before you leave, can you share any life lesson you live by, not pertaining to our topic of discussion?
Oh, yeah. Life is always going to throw you curveballs when you least expect it. And it might feel like the end of the world when whatever that is that's happening to you. But there's always a lesson behind it, even in the ugly, even in the midst of it, even if it could be something detrimental. And I know it might sound counterintuitive if it's like someone who's been raped or something
Yeah.
really tragic that has happened. What I'm talking about is the lesson afterwards. What it's taught us is to either relove ourselves, either go ahead and get help, either be vulnerable, accept help, let's just say as well, learn new ways about you and understand that you want to be different. That's what I mean when I say that these things show you lessons, is knowing that from the dark, there is always going to be a light waiting for you.
I totally agree with you. Like, that's a great life lesson. And
Thank
people,
you.
so many people can relate because we've always felt like, oh my God, this is the
It's the
end of
worst of
me.
the worst. It's the end of the world. It can be, and it does feel that way. It does, but
It
at the end,
does.
when you look back, you're like, "Wow, I learned X, Y, Z. Wow, I didn't know I was this strong. I didn't know I had the capacity to handle that."
That's so true. Thank you so much, Beauty. I
Thank you
really
for
do
having me
appreciate your
here.
time.
Thank you so much for having me, and just thank you to your listeners. And just leaving a parting word is that just make sure you take care of yourself.
Yes, please do. Before we leave, I would be going over the top quotes inspired by Jackie Chan. Number one, do not let circumstances control you. I already did that. I made a circumstance control me, but after this quote, I think I wouldn't let any circumstance control me, hopefully.
There
And
you
number
go.
two, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Hmm.
We've come to the end of the episode. Thank you all so much for listening to the first episode on season 7 of the BSG show. I love you as much as you love yourself. Until next time, bye.
You have got a strong